Welcome back, Rage Nation. Got myself Pete here.
That's not really exciting.
You got Senior Dixon.
I don't think that's appropriate.
And you got Monsieur Leopard.
Explorers deserved it. No.
Absolutely.
I was disgusted. I cannot believe they've done this.
It's wacky, it's not good, it's just nonsense.
I disagree on that. That's not possible.
We're getting the band back together. We're on a mission. Yeah.
Now we've got a whole new list of things to complain about.
Welcome back, Rage Nation. We are at it again. Got myself Pete here, and the Ashes of Malifaux have called us together to talk about some more Rezzers nonsense. And we're going to look at a lot of these new cards, going to see what we think about them. And got Dixon with us, but we also got Cackle back with us, and we always appreciate having you on to talk about good Rezzers stuff.
Yeah, I'm stoked to be here.
Dixon, you surviving?
Yeah, no, I'm doing well. It's just right now my dog was just going crazy, so I muted myself.
And we're going to go over these Rezzers cards. We're not going to go through them. We actually just mentioned this before we hit recorded, but we're not going to go through them kind of word by word. We're just going to go through and say what we like about the card, maybe some situations we see them being useful. And if there should be hype for them, maybe they're overhyped, and just hot takes from Dixon and I and Manicle trying to explain things to us. So that's generally how this is going to go.
I'm definitely just going to go away like gut feeling because I don't know any of these for the most part.
But before we get into it, make sure that you guys are checking us out. You can do that on the Discord. We always got conversations going on there. I got Twitter where we just kind of retweet news. We put different, hobbyist things on there. The YouTube channel, we're trying to throw at least, 1 to 3 videos up a month. Actually just released the Maw Tucket Unpack. I'm going to release soon the Molly Unpack, just so people can see kind of how I've been playing her and, a good turn 1 unpack with her. And then we might even start getting a couple of Guild Ball bat reps on there, because Guild Ball is super easy to record. So that would definitely be a fun one. And if you want to support us directly, don't forget to do that. You can join our patrons, who we have 3 lovely patrons on the side chat watching us live record. They get to see the goodness before it even gets edited up and hear the conversations that don't get recorded before and after, which sometimes that's worth the few bucks you can throw us a month. But do that at patreon.com/RageQuitWire. You get access to live recordings. You get stuff early. We do giveaways probably 3 to 4 times a year. So that's just for patrons. So appreciate everybody that becomes a patron, gets to, support us and get these cool opportunities. And then finally, if you are going to buy all this Ashes of Malifaux stuff, use our affiliation link. You can do that. Give us your money, please. Thank you. Dashweird.com/RageQuitWire. And we get a very small percentage of that if you use our link. And we appreciate that, because my goodness, Pete has to buy so much Rezzers stuff now. Help Pete not take second mortgage out on his house, please.
It's fair to say that times are pretty hard these days. Old Jimmy got laid off at the mill, and well, no one else is really hiring these days. That tax break, well, it was nice, but it's hard to stretch it over a few months. Especially when we'd go and release an entire new range of models for Malifaux. But you can help. For just $2 a month, you can help Pete over at Rage Quit Wire, able to afford new Resurrections models that he won't put in because Manos is right there and so is Archie. Don't worry about Dixon. No one plays Malifaux in Puerto Rico, so it's not really as important. But for $2 a month, just $2 a month, you can support the Rage Quit Wire through their Patreon and get hold of a whole extra bunch of extra content before it even arrives for everyone else. And if you can really help out, there's their affiliate link on the Weird Play Store, where hopefully, I'll be able to get my hands on those goddamn camera bots that are sold out everywhere. I just want to be able to buy the new toys. Why is everything always sold out in Australia? It's like they send 3 copies of each box and we have to divide it up amongst for just $2 a month. Just $2 $2 a month. Flipping cards, flipping tables, flipping hearts.
Thank you. All right, let's get into it, guys. So I got all this. Thanks, I appreciate it. We got all this Ashes of Malifaux stuff. So anytime, and I feel bad for all you Malifaux World Series players because are these models just now live? Like, can you just play these in the World Series now?
No, they will not be live until next event.
Okay. Okay. Well, that would be because I could just imagine you all doing that like Vassal tournament and just all of a sudden, boom, new models just explode onto the scene. That'd be wild. So that's good.
That's how we did it in the past. Is as soon as it was in the app and on Vassal, it was legal.
And now you guys are like, yeah, that didn't work out so well last time. Let's not do that.
Yeah.
So we're going to break this down, though. We're going to do it kind of faction by faction. Some of them will combine a little bit if we feel like we have somebody who knows multiple factions. But today we're just focusing on the Rezzers. We're going to go down in basically, we just got these kind of off of a file. So we're just going to kind of go through them. We might not hit like if it has 2 or 3 models per the keyword, they might not be in the same order, but we'll kind of come back and forth as we need to. But the first one that we did want to talk about that we have here is we're going to go over the Strange Lady first, which I feel like is an interesting, just generic title for this Gorgon-looking lady. She's for Forgotten and Red Chapel, so you can play her in. Well, you can play her in anything, but she's with Molly and Seamus. So, Cackle, I wanted to kind of get your opinion on this because it's 10 stones. So, to me, a 10 stone model should do like a ton of work. So I'm just kind of curious, like, what do you think about, this 6 defense, 6 willpower, 10 stone lady?
Yeah, I'd give her a 7 out of 10. Casual players are going to have tons of fun with her, and the competitive players are probably going to mostly give her a miss, but there's a few things that might pay off.
Yeah, I think the big thing that sticks out is she's basically looks like an obey henchman. So got a real kind of good obey on it. Doesn't have the built-in mask, but if you have, 3 or less cards, you get to build in the mask, I guess.
Yeah, and so that's the Strange Lady. Like, her big downside is if you look at the back of her card, the Gorgon's Kiss is basically Kudra's Venomous Strike without the built-in Onslaught, and then it's an unsuited Obey. And then if you get down to 3 or less cards in hand, the mask becomes built in, but that's actually such a huge cost that it's actually really going to hold back the model, I think. Especially because Kudra isn't burning the world down, even having a built-in onslaught with the same attack. And then the Strange Lady has to jump through hoops to turn on the onslaught. And then stat 6 obey, like, that's not a 10 stone model thing. That's something like...
Well, and also, she has a heal, but it's really dependent on, like, how many cards you have throughout the activations, right? And you also have to have a mask. So this is another action that you need a mask, but it's not built in.
Yeah, so basically once you're down to 3 cards in your hand, the Healing Dark becomes built in and heals for 3. It's a very powerful heal. And so one thing that's worth exploring with the Strange Lady is her potential for being in really tanky crews, because she's got Cloying Darkness, which is enemy models with poison that start their activation within Aura 6 gain Distracted +1. So she can hand out some Distracted, and she can also heal up your models. So, like, if you put her next to a Valedictorian, you have a really tanky crew, but I'm not sure what that tanky crew is accomplishing other than surviving.
It looks like the only thing that I see of big value is that she's a tech piece against Obey Masters and Obey models.
Yeah, the Terrifying Gaze.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you'll see as their tech piece, even if she doesn't work out as a primary piece. I think you'll see people trying to make her work in McMorning crews. The funny thing is Molly has some of the best poison synergies in the game now because she has Cloying Darkness and Neurotoxins. So you'll see people trying some Molly poison builds. Maybe those will work out. And the Red Chapel build, you get you put them on a neg flip with the willpower. I tried it out. I wasn't too impressed by it, but maybe someone else can make it work.
All right. I mean, honestly, I didn't even see value when I was like looking at the keyword combination. You know how like Hinamatsu in Neverborn can be a master level threat because of the keyword combination. Because like you don't see most of those options in Neverborn. So whenever she's the leader, then all of a sudden you have like Chi and Gong and puppets from everywhere. You're like, oh, this is not good. But in this case, I don't think she gains anything. I mean, I couldn't think of anything.
The
So
main thing is Scarlet Temptation gives a minus to uh, resist her attacks. So if you get the perfect setup where they're standing in your Scarlet Temptation and they're standing next to the Strange Lady, and you only have 3 cards in hand, and you land your hits, they're going to take 8 damage, which is like a lot of ends for, oh, you take 8 damage.
Yeah,
yeah,
that requires skill that I don't have.
yeah, and Beard had a good point. We did this with the, I think it might have been Madness. I can't remember which book it was that, they had the shared model with the titles. But I think it is a good thing to talk about whether you think this is probably better in Forgotten or Red Chapel. And honestly, I think this one could go either way. I see some benefits, but it kind of leads me a little bit more towards Molly. But I would say that's only because Molly doesn't have a lot of slots that are dedicated to things. Whereas I feel like McMorning has a lot of, tech pieces that he likes to have in his lists. So maybe there's more room for a 10 stone model in Molly. I don't know.
Yeah, and don't forget it's Forgotten Red Chapel. So
No,
it's also,
sorry, Red Chapel, my
we
bad.
forget because it doesn't look like Red Chapel at all.
I
Yeah,
honestly,
I,
they,
I,
to make a henchman that's better than uh, the lady that they have, the Big Mama or whatever.
Sybil?
Madam
Uh,
Sib.
yeah, Sybil. Because like Sybil is great in a short range. She's like literally she's great within 6 inches of her, but like she doesn't. She's not fast. She doesn't do anything outside of that bubble. So it's like it's very very hard to make her do more than you expect of a 9 point model. And I don't think this model even touches
I,
Sybil, in
I
my
actually,
opinion.
well, I don't even see her like, I don't, I mean, I know you mentioned a couple of synergies, Cackle, but like there's just, I think there's more synergies on the card for Molly. That just makes more sense to me than in Red Chapel.
Yeah, and for me, the make or break thing will be the enemy models with poison that start their activation getting distracted and how easy that is to turn on. There is
Yeah.
another poison model in the Forgotten Red Chapel set that we'll look at later, and that might have an impact. But my guess is that it's going to miss out on competitive play by a little bit.
Yeah. So we'll go into the next card. So unless you guys want to hunt down the other, what are they called? Do you guys just want to do this keyword by keyword? Just keep it simple.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What are they?
definitely. I
The
think it's super
strangers.
equal. Yeah, do the strangers make her any better?
Yeah. So I know that Cackle, you were saying to me that you think the strangers are people. I think eventually, as you said, would be a little more hyped for strangers, in your opinion.
Yeah, it's funny because when people do the first analysis, they get excited by Strange Lady and disappointed by Keepside Strangers. But what Strangers has going for it is it's just an efficient model because it's got the sidekick text. And sidekick, while it's not as strong as by your side, is ridiculously powerful. And when you combine that with the fact that Kruligans can teleport to the Keepside
Yeah.
Strangers, that's just like a Keepside Stranger double Kruligan list. Your mobility options are through the roof. You've
Well,
got that
imagine a
strength.
world where you can sidekick to Archie, who's, whatever, 12, 10, 12 inches up the board. And then even if you just double walk and then a Kruligan now can teleport by your side to the Keepside Strangers, I mean, that's a ton of mobility.
Yeah, and like say plant explosives, they each can be dropping bombs. It's just all over the place. It has a positive to damage flips initially, so you're looking at positive on your blast attack, which is a stat 6. Hands out poison. Again, that might enable Strange Lady, but you don't even need Strange Lady. That's just a solid attack on a 7 stone model. It's got some okay bonus actions you can play with. And it's got hard to kill as well, which is nice.
Yeah,
I
not
think it will
nothing.
die pretty fast when focused, but um,
Yeah,
yeah. So it's just an efficient model, and it should be noted that this keyword Red Chapel, this model can teleport to someone like Sybil, move, and then a Kruligan can teleport to the strangers. So it may open up those Kruligan and
Out
Seamus
of
builds
keywords.
that I've
There
always
you
wanted to
go.
work.
I
So
like that. I like that a lot. I think you just said that the most important thing about this model is that it has forgotten as a keyword.
Yeah, I forgot to add Red Chapel makes a big
Yeah.
difference.
Well, I'm sorry,
And
Forgotten and Enforcer specifically.
Yeah.
yeah. And so it's an efficient model. It's got Sidekick that can win games. That's
Yeah.
pretty simple model to analyze, I think.
Yep. Yep.
So I have one question about this. Let me go back to it. Let me go to their card. So I'm just kind of the actions are kind of just interesting. Like they're just kind of generic, just like 2-3-4, 2-3-3 damage. Puts out shielded, so I guess that's kind of the tech that it's kind of bringing with it. And looks like a little bit of distracted for Seamus's crew. So I just thought that that was interesting. That this looks more like just because when you discard with it, you're just going to put out some shielded, and I'm kind of like, okay, I mean that's fine, I guess. But I think the sidekick's the big thing with this one,
Yeah, absolutely.
and
when
being an
it,
enforcer.
yeah, and when it sidekicks, it gains a shielded. So that's again just like defense 5, willpower 5, hard to kill, and some shielded. Like that's 7 stones of survivability.
I like that. I like that. Actually, the fact that it has a stat 6 attack and it has average survivability for a 7-point model alone makes me want to pick it up every now and then.
Yeah, and the huge thing about 8-inch range guns is 8-inch range guns are only good when you can control your positioning. And thanks to Sidekick, you always control your position.
All right. Well,
So who's going to like these two models better? Is it Forgotten or Red Chapel?
I suspect Forgotten's going to get the bigger payoff with the Keepside Strangers because of the Kruligans and because of the combo with Necrotic Machine. Even if you don't hire Strange Lady, setting up poison for Necrotic Machine neurotoxins is really, really strong.
Yeah.
the fact that Kruligans exist just kind of ruins so many combos that you want to do with Seamus.
Yeah, anything. But that said, Seamus really does crave another model that can teleport around the table. Part of Seamus's problem is his crew's not as mobile as he is.
That's fair.
So I think
This model still has that problem because it is the only model that teleports around the table like that.
yeah, although you can walk the copycat killer somewhere that Keepside Strangers teleports to it and walks 8 inches, and some
I
is like
guess.
20 inches up the board. Like it can reach pretty remote places, I think.
Okay.
Although watch for that move 4, that really holds it back. So that is like that's the if I have to point out a downside, that move 4 feels very painful.
Jump 12 though. Yeah, okay. I mean,
12
we'll
inch
see.
plus the 2 base sizes, so it's actually more like jump 15 and then walk 8. So it's like can move 23 inches. And
Jeebus. I'm looking at Mortis Urami. What the heck?
What'd you do? Just stumble onto a random card?
Well, I'm looking at the because like the thing is, I'm looking at these for the first time. Some of them, like except for the dancers and the ghost eater. Some of these I'm looking for the first time.
so to finish off, I'd say Keepside Strangers. You want to experiment with the mobility Strange Lady. Give the Scarlet Temptation build a go, but I suspect her most interesting thing is if you do tanky poison builds. I don't know if they'll be good, but it's worth experimenting with.
Yeah. I mean, you could get some cool payoffs there, especially like you were saying on the Molly side, where you can be like, I'm going to obey you next to the Necrotic Machine. It's going to give you poison. And now the Necrotic Machine and Archie are going to beat you down and you can't use stones.
Yeah, and in particular, one of the things you can do is you can just poison a model 13 inches away from Necrotic Machine.
Yeah.
They do something. Then Necrotic Machine just double walks and Accomplice, and Archie beats them to death for 9 irreducible, basically.
Okay. Well, let's talk about another group that came out for these models with the Tormented and Urami keywords. And the first one I want to look at, and this is the one that I was actually talking to Kylie about actually yesterday, with the Ferryman with the upgrades, the first one that I want to look at. So let's look at the upgrade first because, this is going to be with Tormented being Daw, Urami being Karai.
The black
And
spot.
yeah, they put out an upgrade. It's called Catch of the Day. So this is an upgrade for McMorning. Why do I keep saying McMorning? This is an upgrade for Daw specifically, where it's like, hey, here's another upgrade you can throw out to damage and draw cards. So I mean, that seems pretty good with Jackdaw.
And a huge thing to note with this upgrade is that enemies can't get rid of it like they can with the hanged upgrade. It sticks around until the model wearing it dies. They can pass it around from model to model, but it's more upgrades out on the enemy crew that stick around. It is unique, so you only get one of them, but the fact that it sticks around is a huge boon for the crew.
Yeah, and it's just the upgrade mechanics for DAW are so just interesting that just the fact that this one looks like enemy models in its line of sight may move up to 4 inches towards it. That's kind of cool. So I kind of like that one as kind of like the negative ability for the model you put it on.
Yeah, movement for a DAW crew is just so valuable.
Yeah, definitely. So what does the ferryman actually do besides putting these kind of upgrades out? Like what is this model going to give to a Jackdaw or Karai crew, do you think, Cackle?
One of the favorite things about it is that it costs 7, and when I build Jackdaw crews, I'm like, God damn it, I wish I had a good 7 cost model. And this slots really well into what I think was a gap. His other options always felt a bit awkward to me.
Yeah,
and then it's 7 cost, 7 health, armor 1, and terrifying, and vengeance 2. What the shit? It's just so much defensive tech. Hint for those wondering how to counter this model. Focus is a good tool against all those types of techs. You want to do 2 big focused attacks will kill this model is how you answer it. But that's still a big cost for the enemy. It's good for 7 cost. Move 6, so you've got a really solid front of card. And the back of card, 2 for 5, engage 2, beautiful. We love that on a 7. Stat 6 as well. What the shit? I didn't realize it's stat 6.
And it has way down that you can get as well.
Yo, they finally learning. Stat 6 on 7 cost models. Yay!
Yeah. Its other attack is stat 5 with a TN10, but you can use it on friendlies and push them around. And again, you push your models like Jackdaw around, a Montresor.
Kylie also wanted to note that this model also has Depths of Malifaux, so it doesn't care about a lot of the nonsense like hazardous terrain and stuff.
Well, honestly, they do that. That's a mechanic thing that they don't want to give incorporeal to a model. So like they do armor and Depths of Malifaux when they effectively want to put incorporeal.
Yeah, that's interesting.
All the other extra stuff.
Also, giving out concealment seems pretty good as well.
Yeah, like the crew's already so annoying to deal with, and what concealment. One of the things that lets you deal with is like stuns from a Pandora crew and stuff like that. There's a lot of crowd control things that like this crew hates conditions, and concealment can help against those conditions. And I like this model a bit more than Jakuna for that purpose.
And also
the Mark of
anti-heal.
Vengeance.
Yep, there it is.
Yeah, the Mark of Vengeance is just Jackdaw is so good at playing the attrition game, and that can be a little bit annoying when you are attritioning a model down and you have to kill it twice because it heals so much.
Yeah, but
nice.
Does this beat the anti-heal that the Hang have? Because like that was the first thing that I did. I compared both of them, and the Hang still like come out on top. Granted, they're 1 point more.
Well, the thing with the Hang is a lot of the crew is about setting up the Hang to beat people to death with their melee, because the Hanged, every time they make a melee attack, the enemy's discarding a card. Yeah. So if you can put the anti-heal out with the Ferryman, that saves the Hanged in AP, which makes a big difference.
Yeah.
And also, again, the Ferryman can push the Hanged into position. That move 4, I think, is going to be one of the most common uses of this model's actions, which is funny because this model would be fine even if its main thing it's doing is these blood-soaked claws, which, by the way, has the flay trigger, so like, which is also insane.
Yeah, that's good.
So it's just again one of those like.
I did just notice that it has 3 triggers, so and they're all pretty good triggers. I'm a fan of this, and Kylie was trying to convince me to play Jackdaw. This might tip me over to it.
There's also a bit of hilarious text, which is that for putting the black spot upgrade, it says enemy non-guilty only. And the reason for that is, imagine if you could put it on a guilty, you could put the upgrade on a guilty, and then you could shift that upgrade to another model, and you could give any model in the faction the tormented keyword, which would open up weird combos. So they had to block that, I think, is why that says non-guilty.
That is something I would not have lined up because I am not a
Yeah.
dog player.
Yeah, that's one of those things where I looked at that, I was like, what the fuck kind of weird text is that? And then I worked it out. So it's one of those things where clearly it shows they do catch some funky stuff in that.
Yeah.
Before they release it.
Right, we don't want to have extra movement on our guilty model, so let's just fix that right now. I don't know. I'm not convinced that they're gonna be taken away hanged. I think that's like the bigger issue. And sorry for the screaming. I don't know if you guys can hear in the back.
Only a little.
But
I don't.
no, I'm looking at this like, okay, so it's 15 points. Competing against the 20 from the hang. I'm like, I can definitely see them in Tormented. I mean, not Tormented, the other one, Urami with Karai, because they do work for her too. But the hang do the anti-heal, and they don't have the Urami keyword, which is the big problem. So I don't know. I think I'm more convinced that this is gonna see play in Karai, but not as much in at least in the higher tables. Yeah.
Well, for Daw, I didn't mention Karai at all. For Daw, I think what it gives is a 7-cost model. I agree you don't have 15 stones of wiggle room, but you can probably get a 7-stone model. For Kirai, what's really interesting is it opens up taking the Drowned in the crew, or for those Kirai 1 players, you can summon Drowned, and now you've got a model to pass out upgrades for your Drowned to use their Torment ability and draw cards.
Yes.
So it's also
that's what I saw.
Yeah, I think that's quite a big deal. But talking about the 15 stone package, it's worth having a quick look at Kari's Zotico.
Yeah, what about so we got a henchman. It's 8 stones like the hanged. So it's kind of in that same price point. Has a lot of the stuff you would expect for it to have, like it's a ghost. I guess it ignores concealment, which is always cool. Torment, it can draw cards. Vengeance 1. I guess it's another anti-heal, which is cool. So I don't know what you think about kind of what's going on with it, though.
Is this a Greek tragedy or something? Like a lot of these names are from like Greek myth.
I mean, Charon is, yeah.
Oh yeah, Charon stole. My impression of this model,
Stygian Hook.
Yeah.
I'm not the best Kirai or Jackdaw player around, but my impression of this model is like, oh, that's neat. About all of its text, I get that's cool. But I'm not seeing where this really delivers for me. Charon's Toll, pretty neat. The target must discard a card and suffer 3/2 and gain adversary. And it ignores concealing. One of the major problems with a range 8 attack is having to deal with concealment. And it ignores concealing. So that's all right. But it's also like, I'm not cheating to hit with this typically because it's a bit awkward. I'd rather use other attacks. So I'm just flipping cards at people. If I had Scarlet Temptation, I would like the attack a lot more. But and the bonus doesn't have the Crow built in, so it gets a little bit expensive to use. Twirling Mist is an alright heal, but I don't want to hire an 8-stone model to heal. Like,
I don't see a reason why the Silver Whistle is an attack when it can only be done to friendly models. So I don't get that.
It can do it to enemy tormented or friendly Urami. So the idea is that
they specify
you put the tormented upgrade onto somebody, then you can do it.
Yeah, nice. I didn't catch that.
Yeah, that's the kind of Jackdaw shenanigans I don't know yet.
Yeah, that's true. I forget that you turn people into tormented. But yeah, I honestly don't know.
And one thing worth noting here is you can Silver Whistle. This just occurred to me. You can Silver Whistle the Ferryman with his move 6. Then his activation, he moves another 12, so he's 18 inches up the board. And then your Lost Love can teleport to him. So, like, the amount of scheming power that provides to a Cry crew is not trivial.
I think that was the thing that when I was talking to Kylie about all this nonsense, right? Because I'm just getting into your Urami and possibly Dom. Because I love the Kruligan so much, and Kylie's like, well, yeah, I mean, the Lost Love is basically like a Kruligan at heart. So you have another model now that you can go ahead and teleport to.
Is it really? It doesn't get a double activation, and it doesn't kill.
It's definitely not as good, but it's pretty good.
Yeah, it doesn't kill 8-point models,
and
it doesn't kill henchmen.
Doesn't kill henchmen.
one of the biggest things, is people in Urami have been wishing for more lost love targets, and these kind of provide that. Although I do have to look at Kari, and I gotta think I think Datsu Ba is much better, partially because of Terrifying 12 front of card. And I think Datsu Ba is a good and fine model, but I don't think that anyone's like super stoked about Datsu Ba's power level already. And if Kari's a little bit below Datsu Ba, then that's disappointing.
I'm telling
Well,
you, the
even
best
if
thing. Go ahead, Dixon.
I was just gonna point out, even if Datsuba were to be in the same list as her, she would still be competing, at least as far as I can tell, with the other lady, the Ubame.
Ubami.
Yeah, Ubume, I think it's called. Whatever. The lady that drowns babies.
Jakuna?
Jakuna Ubume. Yeah, that's her actual. Yeah, Jakuna Ubume.
Yeah.
Oh,
That we
he got
lost Cackle.
disconnected.
Oh, he's
He's
back.
back. Yeah,
He's back. He's gone.
but yeah. Okay, so yeah, in my opinion, she's competing more with Jakuna.
Yeah, fair.
Maybe.
And she provides concealment like Jakuna. And her Withering Away aura is pretty serious utility.
But that is an aura that is usually applied by models that are tanky. This one is definitely not tanky. She is incorporeal in stones and a prayer.
Yeah, the fact that she only has 7 health. Like, doesn't she have the same health as a freaking Gwison? I know Gwison are, like, stupidly overtuned, and I don't think they should be the standard.
No. She is 2 points more expensive and has the exact same stats of a Gwison, except a Gwison is Vengeance 2 and she's Vengeance 1 for some reason. Like I'm looking at this model and going, my God, like she has great abilities that want to be in the middle of the table, but if she's in the middle of the table, she's dead.
Yeah, I agree. One thing I do like about these models in this expansion in general, though, is that pair, if you're a casual player and you buy this box, you are going to have a lot of fun. Those abilities, like Charn's Toll is very fun. Ferryman's Whistle is very fun. Or sorry, the Silver Whistle is very fun. Moving Ferryman 18 inches, teleporting Lost Love to it. Like, there's a lot of cool shenanigans that, so like, again, I know, like, I have a competitive perspective, but for people listening in, don't hesitate to, like, try slapping these models on for just a good time. I think
absolutely, like literally just on the Stygian hook, just like stabbing people and pushing them around, teleporting to them, and just being a general nuisance. That's pretty cool. I think, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. All right. So, out of all or both those models, what keyword do you think uses them better out of all this?
I think Jackdaw uses the Ferryman better, but Karai uses the combination of taking both better.
I agree.
You agree?
Yeah. I still think that it's going to be hard to find a space for the Ferryman, but definitely in Torment, the Ferryman is going to get used.
So the next gross models that I want to talk about are the leftovers that then go to the bisection that then go into the last bite. So this is Transmortis and then McMorning's keyword experimental. And they look like boogers. I'm sorry. Oh man, these things are gross looking. I don't know what the fluff is with them, but they look gross.
They must just be a pile of whatever leftover stuff from experiments that like came together.
I imagine that. So you're probably right. McMorning probably just has a pile of random spare parts. It really reminds me of in the American Civil War. You'd be at these battles like Antietam, and you have these doctors hacking off all these limbs and just throwing them out by a tree. That's probably what McMorning does. He just has a tree just full of body parts that he just goes and scraps together.
Yeah.
I don't know. People are excited. So I like the way that these theoretically work. People that haven't looked at them yet, basically when you kill it, the leftovers then become 2 bisections, and then once you kill the bisections, those turn into leftovers, or not leftovers. The what are they? Bites, last bite. So it's kind of like, it reminds me of that magic mechanic with the what was it? The oozes, right? When you kill an ooze, it becomes a smaller ooze. Then you kill those ooze, and then it goes to smaller ooze. Kind of reminds me of that.
D&D? That's from D&D. Yeah.
I mean, Magic has some creatures with that same mechanic in it, too.
Yeah, I think it's becoming a common mechanic across lots of games because it is quite a cool idea for a pile of grossness that can just, when you destroy it, it keeps splitting. So the flavor here is great, even if the flavor is this makes me want to vomit.
I think actually this is a good model.
Yeah, I think
Like
so.
just general. Am I crazy?
This is the
No.
model I'm most grumpy that I'm going to play this model.
Oh, because it's hideous. Yeah,
No.
I feel the same. Oh, okay.
It's because of the stupid demise. So after this model is killed by an enemy model, and that's not after this model is killed by an enemy activation or an enemy controlled model, it's by an enemy model. So if they obey your model to kill the leftovers, no demise. If they throw leftovers into hazardous, no demise. If they remove its poison and kill it with burning, no demise.
Yeah.
So, and they're the ones who are always making the decision they kill it, unless you Strange Lady Obey or something stupid. So in general, this model is only ever going to demise if that is the best outcome for your opponent. So there's going to be a lot of games where you buy this box with 7 models in it because it splits into 2 and then splits into 4. And your opponent is just like, well, you don't get to use the rest of them. I'm not going to split it. And so that, like,
I think that would be cancerous. If anybody has to ever kill every single piece of this model,
yeah,
that's just cancerous.
And I think there's going to be a lot of complaints about this because people won't realize that one of the answers to a demise like this, like the Grave Golem, is you just ignore the model. And so I think we need to look at what does this model look like when the enemy is ignoring it. And
Or
that is,
when it's not ignoring it.
yeah, it's like
I think the other side is more important. What happens if you do ignore this model? What does it do to you?
yeah. So
Because I looked at his stats and stuff, and I'm like, you can't ignore this.
The chat's pretty funny with this. So we have T-Like who wants to summon it with lecture notes, apparently. And then we have the Beard that wants to kill it with fire, which I think that's the biggest thing. Like, if you have conditions, that's the easiest way to, deal with something with
I
that
think
type
you
of
can
demise.
summon this. I think he's talking about stunning people.
Does it have? What do you mean
Yeah.
stunning people?
It has
does.
that
Lecture notes
stupid
is his
bonus
bonus.
action. Yeah.
yeah, and so
you can't ignore this thing. Like my favorite ability is actually in the front of the card where it says "Futile Struggle." I was like,
yeah, so
"Oh, you
that's what
can't
means
ignore
that
it."
maybe it can't be ignored. Is this model is weirdly a control piece in a lot of ways. Futile Struggle means that once you're in base, all you can do to escape it is disengage, which is
Yeah.
a wild ability. It's never been printed before. We have no idea what the power level of this ability is, but it's probably
I
pretty
mean,
high.
let's just off the top of the head because I started thinking. I'm like, you can't push yourself away. You can't teleport away. You cannot be
You can't
placed away
leap. You
from it.
can't be rescued by. It's
Yeah.
better than stagger. Like it's like
Yeah.
a super stagger.
Yes.
It's
As long as you're in base to base with this model, it's all it asks. So
These
if you
models are gonna
literally
make me upset.
disengage, that's exactly what I was thinking. I was like looking at this model. I was like, I don't think it's OP, but this model is like absurdly good. Like this
Yeah.
is a genuinely like A tier model.
Well,
And you can see why I was
summon,
like-
you can summon these with Von Stuck, by the way. You can.
Oh, not
No,
the
they're
leftovers.
enforcers.
You can summon the minions. So you can summon the
Right.
bisections or the last bites.
Yeah.
Oh my god, bisections! Oh my
Yeah.
god, bisections!
I was looking at bisections. I'm like, bisections are kind of good for 5 stones.
Yeah, though you can't hire them, you can only summon them. Bisections and
Yeah.
last bite have a rule that they cannot be hired. Parts of the whole of this model cannot be hired.
Okay.
Yeah, so it has to start as the leftovers. And the other thing to note about the leftovers is Rancid Smell, which you've had me on the podcast before ranting about this ability with Noxious Nephilim, saying that Rancid Smell is such a stupid ability to put on a squishy model like Noxious Nephilim. You need to put it on a tanky model the enemy doesn't want to attack. And I swear to God, right, Weird must have been listening because, oh my God, here's a model you don't want to attack and trigger its demise. So again, I have no idea how to rate the power level of this Rancid Smell on the leftovers. That might potentially be quite obnoxious. As well as it's using its lecture notes to stun you. So like your models are being stunned, they're being given minuses to attack, and they're giving their movement is restricted. It's a lot of control stuff. And it's got a 2-4-6 attack, which is good for McMorning, but it's nothing.
I think the thing that I'm most excited about with these models, right, is there are nerds who are very good at painting gross things. This is a model that is like a Kingdom Death type of model, where
Yeah.
if you can paint gross crap, it's going to look cool.
Oh my god, thank you. I was like, man, why does this
Why does this
remind me
look
of something?
familiar?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
This is one of those models you'll show to your friends outside of Malifaux, and they'll think less of you as a person.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah,
And I
when I
also,
saw like when I saw that like wet nurse model, I was like, all right, you're just kind of a purry dude. It's cool. It's all right.
Yeah, no, I was like going over this one and I just couldn't think of anything negative. I was like,
No,
okay,
I think
sure, if they have anti-demise.
this is solid set of models.
Yeah, it's like
another
you have to play around the demise or get screwed by it.
Yeah, and another thing I want to highlight is this oozing mass. I think this action should have a TN. Why doesn't it have a TN? It's a really efficient way to get poison up in your McMorning crew, which is we've talked about before. I feel that McMorning, one of his big problems is not having efficient poison generation. This is stupidly efficient. You get a 6-inch move. You have no TN. And you poison to the whole crowd of models you just moved through. And if you're moving through enemies, they have to make a duel or get poisoned as well. And if your leftovers is in combat and doesn't want to be because it wants to charge for the plus flip to its 246 damage track, it can oozing mass out of combat and then charge right back in base contact with the same model and,
Oh my god.
Yeah, that's
and do a
that's
severe
pretty
6.
hard.
So its
Ooh.
lines of play are pretty silly, and it's got a daze trigger. So it's got lecture notes and daze trigger. Having access to stunned is a really good thing for
And on your
Rezzers.
heels, because why not?
Yeah,
The upgrades. I just realized that this thing is already stupid, and then you can put upgrades on it.
yeah. What I think Big Morning really
Oh
wanted
my
was a
God.
Min 3 model for the Flurry, but a 246 for another model that plays well with Charge Through and Focus is perfectly fine. And
I mean, if I want to give days to somebody and I happen to have a focus on me, that's a thing.
yeah,
I'm just saying.
yeah. So this is a model that I'm going to be so angry about playing. I am going to groan about how its demise works every game, and I'm going to play it anyway because
And you're
they
still
made
gonna
the
like
rest
it.
of the cards. Yeah, they made the rest of the cards so good that it doesn't matter that the demise is so clunky.
I mean, I sound like I'm happy, but I'm not happy. I'm very terrified about this crap.
You know, I was a little down. So I'm not gonna lie, right? I've been playing McMorning too, and I was a little down on him. I'm just like sitting there, like it's good. I'm not gonna say McMorning two is not good because he is, but I've just been. It seems a little dirtily sometimes, and this kind of like this type of model would focus it a little bit for me. I think because it's just a little stronger than a lot of the other minions that you can choose. Like the other minions, I
Yeah.
think will still have their spot, but this is one where I'm like, I think I bring a leftover pretty much every game. Why
Yeah, I
not?
think this is an auto include because McMorning 2 has two big problems. It's one, he wants another model to scrap for Min 3 Flurry, which he didn't get. And the other is he wanted a decent model that is both a poison generator and a pretty good beater. And he got that plus a weird set of amazing control shit.
Yeah.
So it fixes problems I didn't even know I was wanting fixed with McMorning. So I think McMorning is one of the biggest Rezzers to get a powered jump this season or this expansion, just because of how well Leftovers patches the crew in terms of what it was trying to fix.
So, I mean, it sounds like you guys think this works better in McMorning's crew than Stuck's.
Yeah, and Stuck, you're competing against Student of Viscera. Like, it's like if somebody's hiring like at a level as valedictorian to Student of Viscera, like that's a lot. The minus flip to make the rest of the crew tanky. Well, I mean, Transmortis is already so damn tanky. Like,
Yeah.
but maybe
I mean,
like,
this thing with cards, no, this thing with cards and focus is disgusting, and that's what Stuck gives. So, like, you simplify what he does in Stuck, and literally you're just feeding him focus and then sending him into battle to do 4
I
to
do
6
like the
damage.
idea of playing Von Stuck 1 and summoning would be interesting to me. I
I
don't
mean, you
know.
can summon the bisected for sure, but
Yeah.
like just having this thing on the table as well, because like accidental rollover, like both its triggers are great. Daze and accidental rollover on a 246, that's insane.
yeah.
I'm sorry, I just like I look at this model and I'm like, yeah, no, with the upgrades with McMorning, he's like very hard to take down. And then with
I was just going to say, to Beard's point, this is different because, Transmortis, a lot of the models just feel the same. It's like, oh, we're hard to wound, we have armor, we're undead, all this cool stuff, and we're robots. This is different. So this does put some versatility into how the crew feels, which I think is interesting.
I think the mentality that I'm having right now is because I play models like Angel Eyes and freaking Bad Juju,
Yeah, go ahead
who
and kill
like
it.
if you give them focus and then they just put out like massive damage. And I think this model in Von Stuck is doing that.
This is a good tip of the spear model.
Yeah, and it's worth noting that a lot of Rezzers don't have access to the Focus Severe 6. That's something that Rezzers is a little bit light on compared to other factions, and so that is a really big deal. And the other thing is, when somebody plays against McMorning, they are preparing some anti-leftovers tech. Against Von Stuck, since bringing it isn't mandatory, you can probably bring it in some of the time and not have to worry about them teching against it.
That's true. That's true. It's the Peacekeeper dilemma. Whenever you're playing
Yeah.
against Guild and you're playing against a keyword that doesn't use armor, all of a sudden they drop as a Peacekeeper and present the question, can you deal with armor too?
I did that a lot. Oh, man. All right. So let's go ahead. And I think the last actual Rezzer models, and then we'll have to hunt down the other keyword models because I think they're technically in other factions, is Rezzers are getting a crap ton of versatile models out of this box. Like, I don't know why they decided to give them so many versatile models, but they did.
Oh, it's their
So,
starter box, I think.
yeah, I think you're right.
We also have Bash and Amelie, which they were previewed, and they are the henchmen of the fungal keyword. And Oscar is part of the fungal keyword, so as like a couple of the other models. I don't know which one would be more important to see.
Starting with the henchman is how I would probably do it.
I don't like these. I think they look great, but like I can't see anything in their abilities that make me go, oh, this is a good model.
There's a couple things. Fruiting bodies is like really weird, right? Enemy models treat corpse and friendly E markers within 8 inches of this model as severe terrain. It's a really weird one because you can't build around it because your opponent might randomly have stuff that ignores terrain. But you'll have some games where you're like playing Von Stuck with this model and all these ski markers have been placed and you're suddenly like, oh, by the way, your crew can't move anymore. So it's going to be like something that is randomly good but not worth hiring the model for.
I can definitely see this in like friendly games. I can have myself a little, fungal dance.
Yeah, and the things that I want to highlight, the attacks, Spore Spurt, target must discard a card, and if they're engaged by a fungal, including Batch himself, you gain Distracted +1. That's a very solid bonus. It's stat 5. I'm not crazy about it, but it's solid. Power of the Dance is incredibly powerful. Friendly models within range heal 2, so that's potentially like 6 or 8 healing in one go. Enemy models, and it has a built-in trigger that may move enemy models around, ignoring severe terrain. That's extremely powerful effect. The problem is it requires very precise positioning, and this model doesn't have anything to get it into position.
Yeah.
So
That's why I was like, healing 2 to models within 3. Yeah, I can't deny that that's a powerful effect. I just because like
the
in
other
puppets, I see it, but it's not as good as like I don't know targeted healing that removes conditions.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where you really need to be able to leverage it in a brawl. And Rezzers are not generally that brawl oriented, or they're so specialized they kind of have their own answers to it. Like Jackdaw, I'm not sure you need a batch anomaly. Von Stuck, annoying your valedictorian, your Analovelus, and your students of Viscera for 2 each sounds very promising if you can get into position, which is a little bit tricky. You can combo it with Enslaved Spirits, but that gets a little bit expensive. But there are 2 crews that I want to highlight people to experiment with this. The first is Molly 2. Molly 2's thing, and if you're doing a weird tanky crew, she can move models around, and she can give him a free move at the start of his activation. So, like, problem solved. that's interesting. Maybe it's worth testing. It seems pretty good. Power of the Dance is like, when it wins games, it wins games. The other thing I really want to try it with is freaking Kirai 2, because you can pulse it out, heal like 4 Urami models for 2, and Kirai lets you funnel all of that into a single model. So this can be a heal 8 in Kirai 2, which is
Okay,
just
so
fucking
I can
ridiculous.
I can definitely see the power in Karai too, specifically because of that. Because like she can just do one model, and that one model can pass it to others, right? Like what is it, 8 inches?
Yeah. So like she can organize that heal basically however she wants.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. What about the? Because I didn't see any combos with either the Dapperlings, which by the way I think that they're actually pretty cool, and Oscar, which I also thought was pretty cool, but they're very slow. Both of them are very, very slow. And I didn't see anything with Bash and Amelie that like make them faster enough. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think that's the whole fungal keyword is one that goes and stands in place and then does its thing. If they're having to take walk actions, like these models are so terrible at moving around the board. The move 5 with like very few movement tricks. There is a reposition trigger on Mushroom Cloud, but meh. So like yeah, you definitely want these. You're looking at these in pools where models are not having to move around that much. So yeah, on batch, the only thing worth experimenting with, I think, is the Power of the Dance. Everything else is like kind of average. Power of the Dance, if you can find a situation where that's good, maybe this model's worth hiring.
Dapperlings having Eternal. We gotta point that one out.
Yeah,
That was like the one thing that I looked at the car and went, okay, that right there.
Yeah.
That's a thing.
And so the theme of Oscar and Dapperlings is like these are pretty tanky, right? Like Oscar's front of card is he's got that classic armor +1 hard to wound that Transmortis is famous for, plus the classic defense 4 that I love to hate.
It's the Resurrectionist classic, super tanky but easy to hit.
And it's and that's fine. People are like, oh, I kind of might want to hire this model when I want a tanky 7-stone model. But I'm looking at this and I'm saying to myself, how many games do I want to hire a Student of Steel or a Student of Sinew, both of who are tankier than this model? Like, how often am I going, oh, I'm going to play Von Stuck into this pool with a Student of Sinew? Like, that's just not happening. And then
you're not wrong that they're tankier, except for like the Region 1. But like, do they do more work? Because this thing is slightly faster.
Yeah, that's true. This thing's slightly faster. Student of Steel has a self-heal, but yeah, this thing's slightly faster. It does the Spore Spurt combo. But like,
it can interact out of activation.
Yeah, that's true. It's really worth mentioning that Network of Mycelium, that's a card draw. Rezzers don't have card draw. Like, we get the Whisper, but card draw, like, that's worth noting. And it gives you that interact action ignoring engagement. That's potentially extremely powerful if you combo those. But when I look at these models, I think I would love to teach a new player a game with these models.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
And then
you're back.
Yeah, I've just been listening.
And
I'm just not too impressed. Yeah, I know. It just, sometimes when people are streaming like 10 things.
I gotcha.
But I will say, like, I don't know. I looked at these models and I was like, I'm glad you guys are finding things, because I'm like, I look at these and I'm just like, meh.
I mean, I definitely don't see the value in the Stuck keyword as much. But I definitely see it for like, if I need like he said, stay in a place and tank. I like Oscar a lot. And the Dapperlings, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out places for them because
let's not guild ball this up and say that things aren't worth playing and then they cancel our game. So these models are fine, as the Beard said in the chat.
And the other thing is, like, again, for casual players, Spore Spurt is such a stupidly fun ability. It is stat 5 hitting defense, but target must discard a card and gain freaking distracted. Like, prepare to make your opponents cry with like when you're bringing the whole box. It's just quite
Yeah.
funny. And the Dapperlings do have this latch on ability. So when you bring the whole crew, the fungal keyword together, all of a sudden you've got this stupidly tanky set because the Dapperlings are cost 5 with 4 health and Demise Eternal, which in my view is generally better than 8 health as long as you can spare the card. The reason being they can't like do 6 damage and then 2 damage. They have to do 4 and then 4. They have hard to wound as well, so that's usually 2 hits for each set of demise. So usually it's taken 4 hits to take this 5 cost model down, which is nice, assuming you don't do anything to disrupt them. It's got that some movement with creep along, but it's got another spore spurt, and again, so that latch on that card, suddenly all these models are working together well. I think this is again is a really fun box that when you put it all together.
Honest, there's gotta be a combo because like the Dapperlings have 2 abilities that are great, and they have the actions are fine. They're not like fantastic, but the 2 abilities are like there gotta be some value there. They're 5 points. They're versatile. Have latch on and eternal.
The first thing I want to see somebody do is put the whole fungal keyword into an execute jackdaw crew and just be like discard, 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 discard.
That seems rude.
It's kind of funny.
And then so they've got some interesting they've got dismember triggers to make corpses. So when the Dapperling punches someone, you make a corpse, which becomes severe terrain. So you've got this whole tar pit effect going on. Oscar, I think, can Oscar make severe terrain with something? Yeah, his bonus action, he can. Oh, actually, we didn't talk about that. Target a marker or friendly fungal model. Until then, phase the area within or of 3 of this is treated as severe terrain that friendlies ignore.
Well, I mentioned that he slows down people, but like
so
the
that's
thing that we're missing. I wanted to mention. Thank you for reminding us because like I wanted to mention that they're missing a roots from below type of an attack. Because they have a lot of great synergies with severe terrain to create it, but not to do anything with it.
Well,
and I think that's the big issue.
They have mushroom cloud, so they're gaining a positive on their ranged attack when they attack people in severe terrain.
Yeah, but
which is
I don't see it as
not as good. Yeah, and it's against move as well, so it doesn't combo with the latch on. So it's all right, and it'll hit. I think if people, I would be what I often rant if this does turn out to be the starter box for Rezzers. I often rant about how terrible it is to teach a game on, say, like the Explorer Society starter box. But this starter box, if I think I would say that I'm happy to teach a game on it, and I am. I think players like the Power of the Dance. I think is going to mean that this crew is serviceable at a bare minimum. Like you can still play solid casual games with this crew. Will be great.
I wholeheartedly agree with that sentiment. They're fantastic for like newer player stuff.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the 2 versatilles that I'm super excited for though? Can we talk about Old Hob and Ezekiel? Because these 2 models I really like. I mean,
Ezekiel first, please.
Okay, I mean we could do. I mean Ezekiel is the one I'm most excited about, just because I think because that's the kind of thing with Rezzers, right? Rezzers have like a lot of themes that just interlock with each other, and a lot of that has to do with undead and corpses, and that's kind of like a big theme throughout the entire faction almost. And he hits just really well into that. He's only 6 stones. He kind of has this weird penetrating stench because he stole it from Mama Z apparently. But the back of his
card, this model not be a swamp fiend.
The back of his card, I mean, you get to push some undead. You're summoning mindless zombies. So I feel like that makes McMorning a lot more interesting to me because now you're bringing bodies for McMorning to do things with. And it's a healer, puts out shielded. It's just has Debt of Gratitude for some reason. So you can just remove scheme markers when you really need to. He seems very useful in a lot of lists.
I mean, you cannot say no to unresisted, remove scheme marker, or take 2 damage. I think that's pretty funny.
One thing I do want to point out, right? So I do want to point out that he's 6 stones and he has suits built in, like the Debt of Gratitude's built in for some reason. The Zombie Apocalypse is built in for some reason. the trigger for Protective Spirits is built in for some reason, but you get a 10 stone model like the Strange Lady who like nothing's built in unless you meet this caveat on the front of her card. It's frustrating.
Yeah, for sure. This model is very efficient, and again, so that's why I think this model will see competitive play. But it also hits that wonderful sweet spot of competitive but not overpowered, fun and interesting and flavorful. The fact that you can healing energy an enemy, and then they have a debt of gratitude to you and will remove one of their own schemes, possibly causing their own team to miss out on a point, is just hilarious. And then, the mindless zombie utility is good. Protected undead is a really big deal for a model like this. When we talked about Nurse, my complaint about it as a healer is that it can die easily. This model, much harder to kill, and it has an 8-inch range on its heal. So this, and pulses out shielded. I think this model is going to do a lot of work.
It has intuition stapled on the card.
I guess we can simplify this model to like the most basic thing you can do with this model is walk. If you put an upgrade, the upgrade that does whatever the pulse focus on people or whatever, this model can
Grave Spirit's Touch,
intuition, walk, drop a corpse, and Grave Spirit's Touch a group of people, and then still be defended by whatever's coming at him. This is stupid easy. Anybody can play this model and actually get value out of him. That's how great this model is.
Yeah, and one of the things I love, weird line with it, is one of the things I hate with any healer is I do a heal flip, heal action, and I flip a severe on the TN and a weak on the on the actual heal. With Ezekiel, you ain't got none of that. You're always going to put it in the correct order. You're going to be like, I flip a 6 and then a 12 every time. Well, every time the cards are on top.
Is that a thing? Did they make it where you can have 10 mindless zombies now?
No. Beard is joking, and I got that. He's like mindless zombies errata.
Can you bring 10 of them? Because that'd be cool.
Yeah, that's why I started laughing. That's funny.
It's got 10 sculpts, but just still only the 5.
I like the new sculpts in this box. Like I already have, the cool ones where they're kind of coming out of the ground. You have a hulking one and all this other stuff. But these kind of look like undead gremlins or something of the sort. So definitely fun.
Yeah.
And it's very sad that he doesn't get to go on Bayou.
Yeah. What would Bayou even do with zombies?
I mean,
what would they do?
You can get the Wanga Mojo keyword that I was talking about. You can just make that happen.
Yeah, so I think like some hot areas for this is obviously McMorning's going to like it. Seamus likes corpses, so that's good. Molly's undead, so there's a lot of synergy there. Those are just the ones that kind of pop out or just out of my head just initially.
Yeah. I think that it's efficient at producing corpses, not as efficient as a Gravedigger, but with McMorning 2, like it can do the mindless zombie corpse replication thing. And then it's got a bunch of other good text. I think you'll be seeing it play with like Seamus 2 can charge and amputate the zombie to duplicate on corpses. It's got a lot of corpse tricks, and then just...
Why do you say that he's not as good as a Gravedigger? I thought making 2 corpses a turn was better.
Oh, no, just in that Gravedigger needs a 4 and Ezekiel needs a 6 is the difference in terms of efficiency. So like, although he has
trade-off for making 2. Gotcha.
Although when you say 2, because it's just 1 for the mindless zombie, and then he'd have to get the 2nd off the resurrect trigger, right?
No, he can make 2.
How can he make 2?
Isn't it a normal? Did I misread this? No, I read it right. It's a normal action. He can just do it twice.
Oh, apologies.
It's not once per turn.
Yeah. But then that's all he's doing, whereas a Gravedigger can like walk.
But so, I'm not saying that it's... I'm just saying that like in the most basic is what I said. Yeah. Intuition, walk, make the zombie, kill the zombie, give everybody focus. It's like the most basic thing that he can do that everybody can get value out of. But like this model has like choices. That's like the insane part about it. It's like he's only 6 points. And he's already like kicking out of the way a lot of other models, in my opinion, for like simplicity of power.
Yeah. And that Debt of Gratitude has my vote for one of the funniest triggers and placements that Weird has ever done. Like choosing to put that trigger onto healing energy is one of the funniest things I've ever seen. And it is absolutely going to win games because people are going to forget that Ezekiel has Debt of Gratitude. They'll be like, why the fuck are you healing my model? and
Yep.
then oh shit, I just lost the game. Like
Applause. And I love T like in the chat. He says blow them all up with Anna. That's a combo that can be done in any keyword.
yeah.
Any keyword. There's no keyword lock other than like you have to get
Yeah.
a 11-point model.
Yeah, it's just the most efficient mindless zombie generation we have now, and it's just
Yep.
Who's
very
Asura Rotten?
yeah, that
Didn't even know that was a model. I just got it because I needed the zombies.
that is
right.
it is one of those interesting things of how weird is dealing with model bloat. Is to me, this looks like they said, let's do a second attempt at getting Asura Rotten right and playable, and I think they nailed it this time.
Yep. And then we have my other favorite model in that is going to be Old Hob. So this is 10 stones, but he seems more worth it to me in a lot of situations. He's raining corpses, so that's cool because he's a Crix Jack, I guess. But he also has What a Lovely Day, like what's his face used to have in Bayou. So that's kind of cool. Might still have, I don't remember. But the
I
other
don't
thing
know
that's
what
good,
model
Dixon.
you're talking about. No model in Bayou that is good has those abilities.
Yeah, but the big things that really got me kind of excited about this is one, construction claw, because anytime you can place a model, an enemy model, or even is that enemy only? It's not. So you could even move
Oh,
your own models if you want to. It's 245, which is solid. But the other thing that I was kind of excited about was the bonus action's pretty decent. So you can remove corpse markers to kind of heal yourself up. It's armor 2, which Cackle, you can remind me, but is there even any armor 2 in the faction besides this?
Nope, Kamainu from Ten Thunders can be brought in, but there's nothing actually in Rezzers that has armor 2.
Yeah, so this is kind of like, hey, you're not expecting armor, and if you didn't bring tech, good luck, I guess.
Yeah, and that's because at first glance, I'm tempted to compare this model to like Metal Golem or Ice Golem, who are also big, stompy 10 stone armor 2 beaters.
the big golem baby from Ten Thunders.
The obsidian statue?
Yeah.
Oh,
If you
yeah.
look at the abilities and you look at the obsidian statue is to scrap markers. What this model is to
Yeah.
corpse markers.
Yeah, very similar. One of the massive things though is this has defense 5, and there's such a massive difference between defense 4 armor 2 and defense 5 armor 2.
Yeah.
This model is going to be harder to do the big focused hits on. When you do hit it, it drops that corpse and within 6, which is quite a big range, and then it can heal up off those corpses. It can do warning synergies.
I would like to know why it has temper tantrum, though. I think that's interesting. Because I think it
there
can
must
be, obviously, with
more
that.
about this.
I think it's
So I
just
don't know.
flavor.
Maybe.
I think it's just flavor.
I can't wait to
temper
read
tantrum.
I can't wait to read the lore on this model. He sounds very interesting.
Well, because
I've got
you
the
pulse
book.
out, they have to give out slow, right? If they fail the willpower 14. So if you have like one of Seamus's models that puts you at a negative to this duel, that can be pretty brutal. And then you just hopefully have the ram there so you can also get a free attack off of it. I think that's the only time I do temper tantrum is like when it's bunched up, yeah, nice and good, give out slow, and then also get the ram to, punch somebody once.
Yeah,
I'm actually kind of surprised that this model suffers the -1 health that the double armor models get usually. Because I thought that he wouldn't have to suffer it because his stats are not that insane. They're just normal. Or am
yeah.
I wrong here?
I think the vibe I get from all the 10 stone models I see this expansion is that they are really pulling back the power of 10 stone models.
Okay.
That's well, at least the main two I've looked at are Strange Lady and Old Hob, but in both cases I'm like, wow, they're going more towards like a bonus action to heal, but not like a board impacting bonus.
T-like is
But I think-
correct. The necrotic machine is armor too.
Oh,
of course.
no.
Apologies.
Thank you. We forgot about that model.
This is the necrotic machine's big brother.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Necrotic machine counts if we're talking cards. A couple of things. Oh yeah.
No, I was you're probably going to mention it now because I love Pete's take on the construction claw, and I was going to ask, does the collision trigger on hurl corpse do anything for you, Pete? Because I know that you love that trigger.
Oh, hell yes.
So
Yeah, it's the problem is you can't guarantee it's the only thing. The reason why it's so good on the Wind Golem is because it's built in on one attack, and you bring Soulstone Cash so you can Stone for it on the other one. It's good
ah,
if you have a Ram, and it's stat 7, so that's also pretty good. So yeah, I
hmm,
mean it's just good, hard to kill tech if you can get it.
gotcha.
If you bring it with McMorning, you're going to have a bit of card draw. You can possibly find your
Yeah,
ram. It's also worth mentioning that you can staple that onto your corpse curator, and the corpse
oh yeah,
curator can then hurl itself, and then end of turn it does some poison damage to the enemy. So like that's a cool attack.
that's pretty funny.
The
And
construction
he
claw being
keeps it.
wicked means that when somebody tries to disengage, you place them before they disengage. Um, so the wicked construction claw combo is quite interesting. Um,
Well, you can plastic surgery this onto either Sebastian or McMorning as well, right? Okay, so there you go, Pete. You got your stone. Is it at that point worth it? That would become the question because
I mean,
I
if you're
know that
playing
that
against
trigger
something
is
like,
insane.
well, if you're playing against something, especially like the Vix, where they just have hard to kill all over the place, it's definitely worth it. So I think that's just a good
Okay.
example of knowing McMorning well enough to tech in the attacks that you need to against certain matchups.
and if you're doing that, you're definitely throwing mindless zombies that are going to engage people and then get blown up by like Anna Lovelace, for instance. And then you
Yep.
potentially have a pretty tanky front line. Um,
Yeah.
but this model still strikes me as mostly just a 2-action 10 stone model. And those actions need to be insane if it's going to
To be
make
worth
it
it,
as a
yeah.
10 stone model.
I do feel
Okay.
like
But
I would feel better if this was 8 or 9.
yeah.
I'd feel really
Um,
good if it was 8.
but
I
I
would.
also want, it does have some great control elements. I'm definitely going to try it in Seamus with the Temper Tantrum and the Scarlet Temptation combo that I
Yep.
think Dixon mentioned. Um, and again, like it's one of those models that if you put it on the table in casual play, you're going to have a great time.
I think actually in competitive play too, I think this has potential to be a peacekeeper level model where like randomly on the right matchups, if you drop it and your opponent's not expecting it, you're like, oh, okay, that's gonna be a problem.
Yeah, I think the fact that it's versatile means that Armor 2 is going to be really, really good. A big difference with the Peacekeeper is it has that hard to wound and it has min 3 flurry, so like getting your value out of the Peacekeeper is always doable. But
Also true.
this model is a lot more mobile than Peacekeeper because what a lovely day. After this model suffers damage, push it up to 4. It's not damage from an enemy model, it's from anybody. So the number of shenanigans you can do moving this model around is actually very significant.
That has me thinking like obviously this is like stupid expensive, but you could do the Dead Rider. You could yeet this up the board, a crap ton of inches, and then have
Yeah.
it, push off another 4. Like that's insane movement in some situations.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and so unlike Peacekeeper, if I'm on corner raid the vaults, this model can score the enemy deployment zone if you want it to.
Uh, I do have a question because I can't figure it out in my head. I've been trying to for like last 2 minutes. Construction Claw and Wicked. How the heck does that actually resolve?
So what happens is they declare disengage, you hit them with the construction claw and place them, and then they disengage at potentially a very awkward angle. So its tar
Hmm.
pitting abilities are potentially very powerful, especially because that territorial trigger, which gives it that +1 inch, and then it cannot be moved or buried. It's got this 3 inch range, so that's an 8 inch circle that is your engagement range on your old hub. And if they tried to disengage out of that, your construction claw placing them potentially behind another model.
I mean, if this is the first time territorial becomes good, more power to you.
Yeah, so it's all stuff that again, it's really worth experimenting with. There's a lot of power on there that's not immediately obvious, which is I think really good
Hmm.
game design wise. I really like it when you actually have to work to unlock the power of a model. And I think this model's got a lot going for it. Again, I'm not sure it's got so much going for it that'll make it to competitive play at the tippy top.
Yeah.
But I think that a lot of you'll be able to get really solid value out of this if, as you say, you don't treat it as I'm putting this into every crew. I'm hiring this when I know that Armor 2 is the answer to my opponent, which to me is brilliant, versatile design. I really, really like it when they say this isn't going to be good into everything, it's going to be good when it's good.
And I feel like, so looking at some of the other keywords, yeah, because I was looking at the one for Revenant and then them, but it doesn't seem like they're in there.
They are here.
Yeah, because
I
Returned is the Leech King, and then, yeah, the Ghost Eater is down towards the bottom of the
Okay,
file. I
there we
think.
go. So that's the ones we got to
Right
hit up.
before Ezekiel.
Yeah, I
There
mean,
we go.
I have them in the thing that you gave me. So
All
I
right.
don't understand Ghost Eater. What you call it? Like I know he's worth his points, but I'm trying to figure out his place.
I
I
feel like
love
this
the
is the
Spirit
model
Barrage
that
though.
people were most hyped about, and I'm not exactly sure why.
It's funny because I first read this model and I was like, what? And then I now think it's probably going to be the strongest model in the expansion for Rezzers.
No kidding.
And so I'll briefly go over why. But basically, um, it's going to consistently summon 2 little shitters turn 1. So you've got these 2 little ghost lights, and what those ghost lights can do is that for Riva 2, she can kill them and they make a corpse. Or, they've got an attack that if they're in a pyre marker, they're on a minus to resist it, and she gives burning 2, which is great. And then in Yan Lo 2, they're potentially even better, because they're just another minion that passes a reliquary, and every time they do
Just
that,
draw
you draw a
cards,
card.
yep.
Yeah, so that's just... an 8-stone model that's like an extra 2 cards a turn is already great value. But then on top of that, Spirit Barrage. I think we sometimes forget like what a good gun this is, because I myself always forget that because I just take monos for granted. And Anna
So
Lovelace is
so
like
so why don't you
I
tell?
did say that. I did say
So,
Spirit Barrage.
but why don't you tell us why you like Spirit Barrage? Because I think a casual player, and especially to me, kind of being new to this attack, being Rezzers, I see 2, 3, 4, and it doesn't seem that great to me. So why do you say it's a really solid gun attack?
First off, range 12 is the second longest range in the game. Like there's 14 above that, and then 12 is like super long range. This action ignores friendly fire, so when we talk about guns, we've got cover, concealment, and friendly fire, and the more of that you can deal with, the more likely the gun is to be good. And in Rezzers, we have so many melee models. Our models are always in melee, so friendly fire is the big concern for us. And then on top of that, it hits willpower, which is like a sneaky way of half ignoring cover. So because cover gives +1 defense against guns, it doesn't give +1 willpower. So this stat 6 willpower is often going to be hitting models, and models you're facing that you're often wanting to shoot down with this are often going to be stat 5 or stat 4. So you can often just find these great opportunities to shoot. And when you're standing that far back, you're really, really safe. It's even better on Monos, because Monos has Leap with a stagger trigger, but this model has all that other stuff going for it. So like in terms of like my baseline action is I Spirit Barrage. It also has a melee attack with Exorcism, and I should note that it has a tune, so it's using Soul Stones whenever it wants for a suit. And its little ghost lights, when they die, I think they produce Soul Stones or something silly like that.
I think the fact that it uses Soul Stones and it's not a henchman is like a special thing, because it ignores some schemes. So
Yeah.
that's actually powerful in itself.
Yeah, like it can't be anything that targets a henchman. You can't score on it.
Mhm.
So like its base actions of when it's just sitting there gunning is like great. This model just pumped out 2 hits at 4 damage, or sometimes you flip some more. I don't know how often Spiritual Weakness will come up, but when it does, Injured 2 on a stat 6 willpower gun is wild. And then yeah, you've got the Instill Youth. It's a nice bonus action heal, pretty efficient. And then the
I love
fact
how
that
you like
those lights.
completely ignore Burning 4. It's just like, yeah, I don't need that one.
Yeah, Burning 4 is like insane, right? Like that's 2 damage at the end of the turn. Burning 4 is unheard of. And I skipped over it because of how insane the next bit of text is. Like Injured +2 is just like so absurd. And yeah, and then you can consume Ghost Lights to heal up again. And then if you have to do that, you're drawing a card, so it can help with your card quality. It's got some healing. but I think the fact that the ghost light summoning is so efficient. I've not played this model myself, but from what I've heard other people talking about, it just ends up being so efficient how quickly it gets the ghost lights out, and they do that little bit of work that you need for them. Especially because when you can kill them for stones, so like you can just like summon them and then later on be like, oh, I gained 2 soul stones. It's kind of like their worst case scenario.
Not terrible.
Yeah. No, not at all. I mean, the biggest gripe that I have with this stupid model is Ghostlight being an additional anchor for Yan Lo. That's literally it. That's the only thing that I was like, I hate this model just for that ability alone.
Yeah,
I mean, do you guys think? Good.
Like, and that's one of the downsides. I was talking about all these other models, how fun they are. Ghost Eater, it's like I pop some ghost lights in my deployment zone and they pass a reliquary upgrade back and forth to draw cards. Like, that's not very fun gameplay. So that's the downside there, is that I can see why a competitive player is into it. But like, yeah. But for casual players, you summon these into fights with people, you blowing them up, you're getting injured, you're using them as stones, whatever. Like, they're gonna have some fun with them as well.
So, I mean, who likes these models better, do you think? Is it going to be Riva or is it going to be Yanlo?
I think Riva's going to be stronger with them just because she's so ridiculously strong. I myself didn't realize until like the last year or so how good she was. And just having those extra models that Riva can kill for health may open her up to take the hit, for instance, although I'm not sure about that. So probably her. Yan Lo, though, gets a really big jump in power from those extra, like, once you summon your 3 ghost lights and they're in your back line, giving you 3 extra cards a turn, and you've got a model taking 2 attacks. Like, so, like, this model in Yan Lo 2 is basically like 3 extra cards per turn, a bonus action heal, and 2 gunshots. Like, that's a lot. So I may push Yan Lo 2 back into we see him on the competitive stage sometimes. But maybe I'm being overhyped. Maybe not. But I think on the pools where it's good, it's going to be really good, I think.
So
I'm very surprised about this.
Why is that?
About me rating it so highly?
No, about these models existing.
Yeah, right.
So the last model that we have is technically for Castor. Castor got the Leech King and some leeches. I don't know if you've looked at these yet, guys. I got the link there if you need it. But I know some people think this is kind of cool. It doesn't seem great. I don't know what your feels are. I think it's disgusting, and I'll never play it. But
I think it's
as in like just the thought of leeches is why I won't. I just hate the thought of leeches being on me. So I'll never play this.
Fair. When I first saw these models, I was not impressed because I thought they would just die like chumps. And I've come around on them, and I am very excited about both of them for Castor and possibly other crews.
You don't like this for Mama Z?
Oh, these models are terrible. I think I saw like 1, maybe 2 models in Neverborn that I was like excited about. This ain't it. This is trash. I am so sad that Return didn't get anything.
What I like about the Leech King for Neverborn is another Ruthless model is at least kind of interesting. The blood magic doing its thing and doing all that damage is interesting, and it's occasionally going to do heal 5 with I'll have what they're having means that you can heal 5 on another return bottle is really big deal. But really it comes down to like how consistently can you get the Leech snowball going for the Leech King, because if you can have the Leech King target an activated model, drop a Leech on it, then dome it for 5 health, because he can ignore all minuses if they're low enough.
I mean, this is a model that wants to be in combat, and it has defense 5 and regeneration and a prayer. That's bad. Yeah. He's not a henchman. Yeah. I want to clarify that this is an enforcer model. Defense 5, 9 health and regeneration. Go have fun, buddy. And he has to be within 8 inches of like beaters.
Yeah. So it's going to come down to how often can he like walk Clue of Leeches. If Castor can Visceral Rampage something into range of him, that's going to be relevant. Zoraida, I'm thinking a hard no. Like I can't see playing this Zoraida. Um, uh, and the other one I want to give a shout out to is please experiment with this in Pandora, because Pandora is so good at attritioning things. She's always got models at half life. She's got
Very
good
Dixon.
summons, and then when you throw in his summons, you've got even more summoning happening. It might be that critical mass. Yeah. And then for the giant leeches, I and Castor keep being like, what the fuck do I hire as my 5-stone schemer minion? Okay, question answered. I've got my move 6 stealth model. I'm happy. Like,
I mean,
it's fine.
if he drew cards, I can definitely see him in Pandora because of Infect, because he has auto Infect on his blood magic, and that would be fine, because that I can take summoning a model and getting a condition out. Fantastic. But this model sucks at surviving at the range that he wants to be in. Like literally, he wants to be within 8 inches of anything, and he won't survive like a turn.
So it will all come down to how efficiently you can get something in range and summon a leech on it. Because once, the leech is summoned and there's a wall in front of him. And don't forget, if this guy summons a leech and they kill the Leech King and the summoned leech now summons another leech, you're like, well, I guess you killed 8 stones and I summoned 10 stones.
Or do you just ignore the leeches because they're not really good?
One of the nice things about the leeches, though, is that they also are... I want to try them with Castor 1 because they do ping healing, and ping healing is so nice for spamming out those duels. So I think they'll be really interesting to experiment with. Competitive play-wise, I think they're both maybe going to see play, but I can also see that they may just die like jumps, so we'll have to see. But also, I think this model is less prone to dying like a chump than a Cavern Nephilim in some ways, and that this guy can summon a leech in front of him as a speed bump.
You truly believe that a Cavern Nephilim dies faster?
Yeah, I mean, not
6.
If they both stand there, obviously. But I think the situations how you're using the Leech King, it may be able to get those attacks off. The other thing is Barbaros can protect the Leech King, but I also don't think Barbaros is good, so I'm dubious.
You don't think Dixon Barbaros is
what?
I'm sorry, I'm such a sinner. But
Holy
Blood
shit.
Magic Heal 5 on Barbaros may end up being very good as well. And again, I think Castor has really, really good card draw, so I think getting that Drink Blood off should be somewhat reliable. And when you do...
I mean, the fact that you said that about Barbaros means that you
Dixon's
had
offended.
something to do with Angel Eyes being out of control right now. You're like, you probably were one of those players that are like, oh, Angel Eyes is complete and total garbage. Let's just crank her all the way up to 14. You went right past 11 and went straight to 14.
I'll refer you to my long history of saying people who say Neverborn is too weak are kind of I disagree with them. All that happened with Neverborn is they didn't get a Damien in Madness. Other than that, Neverborn were fine in my view.
I mean, I don't know. I don't see anything. Like, Delirium is fantastic. The Thralls are usable and you can summon them. Like, fucking Giant Leech and the Leech King is just like complete waste of paper.
So,
are we just talking back to the Neverborn episode now?
Getting back to Rezzers.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, I did want to wrap up the Rezzer talk with what is your favorite card and model that you're excited about in this new set of cards. So whether it's to play or play against, like, what are you excited to see come out on the table out of all this? What's your favorite thing?
For me, my favorite art and sculpt and lore is the Strange Lady, which is what makes it so crushing to me that I didn't like her stack card. Just because, so much about Molly and Seamus is about the Gorgon, and here we finally see her, which I believe she's actually a Tyrant level character, and then to see a disappointing stat card associated with her is gutting. But the card and the lore and the art, I'm all super stoked about. Leftovers is the one I'm going to love to hate, where I'm going to slam it into so many crews
Just
and
like the
make
beard.
it work. But I'm going to complain about it the entire time I do it. And Ezekiel is my favorite for, um, man, they fucking nailed everything. They nailed the flavor. They nailed the art. They nailed the extra mindless zombie sculpts. They nailed the card on the back. Every single bit of text makes so much sense and is really, really well done.
Yeah.
And then Ghost Eater is like probably my pick for like, oh, this ends up being the biggest competitive pain in the ass. Partially
Nice.
because Riva is such a competitive pain in the ass.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be
What about you,
happy
Dixon?
if he said Swamp Fiend. Why is Ezekiel not available to buy you? It makes no sense. I'm just the only thing that I'm upset about, and I understand that there's no uses currently for
Well, what are
like
you
you
excited
know.
about?
I am not. No, no, I'm not. No, screw you. I don't want. I am the least excited is to find out the leftovers are disgusting as I think they are. But
Dixon's not playing the game.
yeah, but I think Ghost Eater is what I'm going to be more upset about. Like literally, if
So
you see them on the table, I'm just gonna be like, I hate this stupid thing.
when it comes to sculpt and kind of I think flavor and what I think is really cool, I'm
Mm,
pretty excited about Old Hob just because I like the look, I like the feel of kind of what I think he's going to do. But when it
yeah,
comes to like what I'm going to use the most and what I think I'm going to get the most miles out of, I got to throw Ezekiel there just because one, the sculpts on the zombies are awesome, but two, just a lot of utility, I put a lot of value in models that I can slot in a lot of different keywords, and he just kind of fits that in the keywords that I'm currently playing. I
mm,
might change that once I start playing Daw and Karai more. I might like those other things. Riva, I don't know. Maybe I should give Riva more time because she is good. But I played her like 3 times and I really didn't love her. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, I hate playing her. And the thing with Riva is like every activation, I'm just like, I drop a pyre marker and I unresisted ping your whole team.
Yeah,
And
it's
then,
kind of
oh,
it's kind of boring.
yeah, I unresisted kidnap a model with Traverse the Ember. Guess you're teleported 8 inches and now you're going to die because you're an Anna
Well,
Lovelace
I
Azora.
I
Like,
I feel like with Riva's crew, it's more about can you keep your bubble together and just get the payoff of that bubble and the unresisted damage. And if you're good at maintaining that, I feel like you win. But if you screw up or your opponent kind of can find a way into dismantling it, then you lose. So it's kind of a
yeah,
boring line of play to me. But some
yep.
people like that
yeah.
style.
And
That right there is the bigger issue, in my opinion, is the boredom because that's how you start making more mistakes. You
Hmm.
become bored and you lose focus, and then you, oh crap, now lose this game that I had in the bag, quote unquote.
See, I like mobility more than like static bubbles that I just kind of move around together. And that's kind of why Karai too, I kind of felt like that a little bit. 'Cause her bubble's a little bigger, but it's still kind of a bubble, and then you do things out of it. So I kind of found that I don't like crews in Malifaux that kind of play that way more. I kind of like crews that can just go off and like I can use my mobility tricks to send this model over there to score points or to kill a model, which is why I like, a lot of things that Molly does, that Von Stuck does, that um, Seamus does, that, McMorning does. Just a lot of that mobility tricks, I think, is what can really win you games.
Yeah, well, I think Keepside Strangers and that Kari Ferryman Lost
Yeah.
Love combo are the big winners for you this season to try out then.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
I'm definitely excited to try those out for more mobility, and the ferryman also is kind of interesting to me. So I think that might draw me into playing Dawn Karai a little bit more. Um, yeah, I'm kind of excited about it. Man, I thought I was going to be bigger on Yan Lo, but it turns out I'm not.
He ends up being so dirtly now with like the weird
Yeah,
upgrade messing. I yeah.
and if you don't dirtle to draw cards, then you don't get big payoffs for your models. So it's almost like you kind of have to do it, but I don't like
Yeah.
that.
Hmm. Okay.
Um, any last minute thoughts on any of this Rezzers stuff before we roll out of here, gentlemen? No?
One of the things is a lot of what we talked about was like some of the downsides of some of these models and their limits and weaknesses. But again, a lot of that is with a competitive bent, and for people who are just playing, with their friends and like not at tournaments
Playing on
or
a Tuesday night at the store.
yeah, not the Malifaux World Series level, for instance. I think every single one of these models you can have a fun time with.
They are
On
all
the table.
playable. Like all these models are
Yeah,
very playable.
yeah. So I think and nothing in them screams to me this model's going to break the game. Although some of them possibly have that potential. Um, so I think Weird has done a really good job with the Resurrectionists, at least, and
Yeah.
we'll have to see about the other factions, of balancing it so that the vast majority of players are casual players that just want to have a good time, and I think these models will provide that.
Yeah, and on Friday, this Friday, and I guess it'll be Saturday for you, Cackle, and Saturday for anybody else in that time zone of New Zealand and Australia. But we're going to be doing an interview with Brody on Arcanist and Ten Thunders, so that's going to be pretty fun conversation for especially the patrons to hop on Friday and be a part of.
Awesome.
Yeah, Brody's got a. I like talking to Brody a lot. I played a handful of games with him on Vassal, and he's just got a very interesting style to his approach on Malifaux. So I always like talking to him.
He's New Zealand's most ruthless player, I would say. Like, he doesn't have an off switch. He's just, I'm always picking the most brutal thing I can and smashing face with it. And he's a good addition to the meta, I think, because he's one of the reasons that we all stay a little bit sharp against that kind of play style, is that we play against him pretty regularly, which helps keep us sharp. Because if you're not sharp in the game against Brody, you get smashed pretty hard.
Oh, he will stomp you if you are not prepared for that game. I played, I forget what it was. I was trying, because I was trying a bunch of tech pieces for Rezzers going into Captain Con. And one game, I think I brought Vincent in a random list that I really didn't need to bring him. And man, I got punished for it just because he wasn't doing anything to, help me win the game. And Brody just saw that and just cracked right into my crew and just destroyed me. I was just like, yep, that was not good. But I want to thank you both for coming on and thank the patrons that we have. We got T Like the Beard and we had Kylie on here for a little bit. So thanks for hopping in and supporting us directly. We definitely appreciate your support so we can keep giving out good Malifaux content to you all. But until next time, make sure that you guys are flipping cards, flipping tables, and we will see you all later.